What's up, guys, and welcome to another outlandishly awesome episode of Natalie's Reptile Room.
It's our beauty. And guys, we have our beauty today.
And we've got our special guest,
A bearded dragon.
Bearded Dragon.
We do not have a name for him. And if you have a good name for him, comment down below.
Right, so this is our Bearded Dragon. Like she said, we don't yet have a name for him, so comment down below if you have any suggestions.
Yeah, and he's huge.
Oh, he is going to be a good one. Ready to get into it?
Yeah.
Let's get into it. So this is our Tiger Morph Bearded Dragon. And can you see why he's called a Tiger Morph?
No.
He's kind of got like some orange in him like a tiger. It's kind of tiger-esque, ain't it?
Yeah.
A little bit. But he is an awesome lizard. And you guys will see how awesome as we get into this video.
Yeah.
And he is. Alright, so as always, today we are going to go over some general and cool facts about bearded dragons, their enclosure, and then diet for bearded dragons.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Good.
You guys will notice in this video that he's got a lot of similarities in this video compared to like our frilled dragon video that we did a few months back.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a few reasons why. They're both closely related. They both come from Australia, and they both have dragon in their name.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And they probably were sisters.
I mean, literal dragon, the both of them.
Yeah.
Dragon, right in the name.
Yeah. And then a frill, and so then a dragon and a frill dragon, and a bearded dragon.
So we got two dragons. As we just said, bearded dragons, they do come from Australia, a super awesome place. There's actually 9 different species of bearded dragons, but the most common ones you'll see in the like reptile shows we go to are the central bearded dragon. Cool name.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love to go to Australia and like find some of these guys in the wild? That would be super cool. So kind of like we mentioned in our leopard gecko video, we were actually surprised to see how many morphs of these little guys that there are. But this one again is the tiger morph. Do you remember seeing those zero morphs of these guys?
Yeah.
Do you actually remember them at the one pet store where they were like snow white?
Yeah.
Those were super cool looking.
I wish we could get one of those.
I think we're gonna have to one day because they are awesome. Bearded dragons are definitely on the, I'd say, smaller to medium-sized lizard range. They'll only get to about 18 to 22 inches in total.
Is that huge?
Not very big, but still a pretty good sizable lizard. He'll be definitely bigger than your leopard gecko, but he'll definitely be smaller than like the Savannah monitor. So perfect size for you.
Yeah.
Certainly a lot bigger than this little baby is right now,
Yeah, and
right?
he's crazy today, guys.
He's being a wiggle worm.
Yeah.
But he'll get a lot bigger than this, because right now he's still just a tiny little baby.
Yeah.
The cutest little baby. So as babies like this, they can be pretty delicate. But as they get older, they get a good bit of size to them and some hardiness, so they won't be like as delicate and as fragile. I wouldn't say he is anywhere near as delicate as like your frilled dragon, because and he's way more manageable. That frilled dragon, you know how wild he is when you try holding him.
Yeah.
Feels like you gotta like hold him just right, or it feels like you're gonna break him. That's why you gotta be careful with little lizards.
Yeah.
Don't want to hurt them.
Even like him?
And if you do everything right and you treat them right, they've got a pretty good lifespan to them too. Anywhere from like 10 to 15 years. But that's only if you care for them very, very good, right?
Yeah.
As you should.
If you like accidentally drop them or accidentally hold them or
Stress them out. Don't feed them.
So the bad things about them is if you don't feed them, you don't give them humidity, and you don't give them heat lamps.
You're right. You're absolutely right. You gotta take really good care of them. All right, so on to the next part.
Buddy.
Why do you think they call them bearded dragons?
Because they have that beard.
That spiky little beard, right?
Yeah, just like a real beard, just like Daddy.
Just like Daddy. But he's got a cute little beard. I like his beard.
Yeah, and it looks a little small.
They always say that nobody can do a side eye better than a bearded dragon. And
Yeah.
I think they're right. He gives us a pretty good side eye.
Yeah, and he's like,
But you're absolutely right about the beard of spikes. And when they're threatened, they will puff the bottom of their throat out to show off those spikes. I mean, he's like all around spiky though, isn't he?
yeah, and just like beard, and just like frill dragon, they show their beard, but it's
Kind
not.
of like the frill dragon shows their frill. Even if he is as spiky as he is, the spikes don't hurt, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah, they don't hurt you.
yeah.
And on the subject of appearance, what is one really cool thing about bearded dragons that you wanted to tell everyone?
They have a second eye on top of their. They have,
Third.
and then they have their third eye on top of their head.
They have a third eye. That's
Yeah.
right.
But you can't see it, and if something comes down, they can see it without putting their neck up.
That's very good. Very smart of you.
Yeah.
Because you're right.
And that top thing, if something comes down from the top, they can see it with their third eye, but people can't see their third eye.
You are exactly right. And that's without even telling you that. You know exactly that.
Yeah.
You are smart. And this third eye is called the pineal or solar eye. So that's a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
It's actually located right between their two eyes, like right between them on the top of their head.
Oh, I see it.
Can't see it, it's under a scale. But it has a retina, it has a lens, but it does not have an iris. I know you probably don't know what all that means, but it's really close to just another actual eye.
Hey, and I mean, guys, I'm sorry that I just said A, but guys, if you do this, it's thinner, but if you do that, it's rougher.
Oh, because you go along the spikes. Yep,
Yeah.
You're right. Same thing with his tail.
Yeah.
But you've already kind of explained it, and you're absolutely right. What that third eye does is it detects like shade differences,
Yeah.
temperature, and light. And this is incredibly important when it comes to protecting them from predators. Of like, let's say a bird coming down and swooping up, trying to grab them. That third eye can detect like the shade differences of something flying up above him.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool superpower to have to keep you safe.
Yeah.
I think so.
But I would be really, really happy if I had another third eye. on
A
that.
third eye. I would too. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. It would be cool if we had one right here, one on our teeth, one on our nose, and we had these eyes, which we already have.
You'd want like 5 eyes.
Yeah, and then
That's
one,
crazy.
and then one right there, and then one up here.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And finally, with appearance, is unlike our leopard gecko that we did last week,
Yeah.
a bearded dragon cannot willingly drop their tail.
Yeah.
So you know how we talked about your leopard gecko being able to drop their tail if something grabs them by the tail?
And what else does that?
A couple other lizards, actually a lot of lizards can do that, but bearded dragons can't, which is a definite
Can flail dragons do that?
nope. And a lizard that can't drop its tail, to me, is a definite plus. Which, between not being able to drop their tail and being a more hardy lizard than a leopard gecko,
Yeah.
I feel makes them an even better kid-friendly reptile. What do you think?
Good.
But if people are looking to get their own pet reptile,
Yeah.
would you recommend a bearded dragon?
Yeah.
You would say get one?
Yeah.
We agree. Some of the absolute best things about bearded dragons is, one, their laid back and docile nature, and the other one is that they are active during the day.
Yeah.
And little things like that makes them so wildly popular in the reptile community.
Yeah.
And they're awesome.
And he's giving you another side eye.
Except for that side eye. Why are you giving me the side eye? It's pretty cool to have a reptile that's active during the day because you get to see them running around and actually playing. I think that kind of makes them a much more entertaining pet than one that is like nocturnal, that only moves around at night, because then you don't even get to see him because you're sleeping.
Yeah.
At least this guy, you get to see him run around, chase stuff, climb on his tree. These guys are like the ball python of lizards, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I think so. Between all of that and just being like super tolerant to being handled,
Yeah.
I mean, I think they make an absolutely great beginner reptile or kid-friendly reptile, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and they're the best reptiles we ever seen.
He is a good boy.
Yeah.
We like the goodest boys.
Yeah.
The only downside that Natalie and I could think of for a bearded dragon is the costs involved in keeping them. Now, we're definitely not saying that bearded dragons are on the way more expensive side, especially when you got lizards that are $10,000 plus. We feel for someone that is new to the reptile hobby or has never kept any reptiles,
Yeah.
is there can be a lot of unexpected costs involved.
Yeah. And what I just said is if you grab a reptile out of their thing, their box, whatever you got them in, you have to let them go in their enclosure, set it up nice and cool.
These costs involved could come down to like the enclosure, diet, lighting, and we'll get into each of those a little more individually. Also, check and make sure that it's legal to even have a bearded dragon where you are. In some states, and I'm assuming some countries, is they require that you have a license to even keep bearded dragons.
Yeah.
And then other places, it's just straight up illegal. Like, you'll get in trouble for having a bearded dragon.
Yeah.
Which is really odd.
Yeah.
To me, anyway.
Yeah. And he's just chilling.
He's a chill boy. Chill boy. He's a good boy. He kind of does have like a toad-esque look to him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of like a toad.
Yeah.
Thorny toad. But if you do plan on getting a bearded dragon, we're sure that you guys have heard it before, but we want to recommend getting them from like your more mainstream pet stores. Reptile Expos, those are probably the best place.
Yeah.
And our last point to general and cool facts is cohabbing bearded dragons.
Yeah.
Natalie and I don't have any experience in cohabbing bearded dragons.
Yeah.
So just as we did in our leopard gecko video, we would suggest you guys watch channels like Wicked's Wicked Reptile, Go Herping, and Snake Discovery. Take the input of people that do have experience in it, base your opinion on that.
Yeah.
Because Snake Discovery and all them, they got a lot of cool information.
Yeah. And guys, I actually saw that they have legless lizards.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Alright, with all the general and cool facts out of the way, on to
Enclosure.
enclosure. Let's start with the size of the enclosure. Our bearded dragons, although not the largest lizard out there, when we talk about the unexpected cost, enclosure is going to have to be pretty good sized. This isn't a lizard you can keep in like a 10 to 50 gallon tank like your leopard gecko, right?
Yeah. But if he got bigger, we would need a bigger tank than that.
Yes. For an adult bearded dragon, you are definitely going to need at least a 75 to 150 gallon tank, and 75 gallon being the minimum. Do you remember how? Oh no.
What?
So if you guys seen our reptile handling video, you know Dad does not like reptile poop.
Yep.
And Dad just got reptile pooped.
I'm trying to hold him like this so I don't accidentally get poop on me.
Okay. And on the topic of our reptile handling video, two things when it comes to bearded dragons on the enclosure that we did mention in our lizard handling video.
Yeah.
One is it is much more beneficial to buy the adult enclosure right off the bat. rather than, remember the issues we had with the Nile monitor when you switch them from enclosure to enclosure?
Yeah.
It is much better to just start them off on the adult enclosure, and that is where they will permanently live, so they're not changing environments throughout the year. The second thing is, especially with that third eye and with predators like swooping down on him, is you're going to want a front opening enclosure.
Yeah.
Compared to like the ones that you lift from the top and you're going in from above and scooping them up. It's kind of like a predator. You're going to want a front opening enclosure for them.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
And then as far as substrate, calcium sand is an absolute no-go. Calcium sand can cause impaction in your bearded dragon, and it can most certainly kill them.
Yeah.
So, to that, however, you will see many people do a topsoil and play sand mix.
Yeah.
Play sand.
Yeah.
And the difference being that play sand doesn't clump together and like compact together. If they were to swallow some of it, it doesn't cause like a blockage through them. They can actually process play sand.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't suggest straight play sand because I'm sure there's a limit of how much of even that they can digest. So we would definitely recommend, if you are going to use play sand, mixing it with a topsoil. And I'd probably do most of it topsoil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of it. Like, probably not the whole bag, but...
Pretty good amount. So kind of like the same thing we brought up about calcium sand in the leopard gecko video, remember?
Yeah.
Some other good substrates, if they wanted to use something else, would be like that Reptile carpet.
Yeah.
We'll get into why that's probably not the best idea here in a second, into diet. But they even make, like if you wanted to keep it naturalistic looking, they do make, it's like a sand mat, where rather than actual sand, it's like, I don't know how you would say it, it's like molded onto the mat. So the sand won't come off or accumulate in the tank. It's all like cast into the mat. And it looks just like sand, but it's like a carpet.
Yeah.
If that kind of makes sense. Now, on to heating and lighting. Reptiles are what-blooded?
Cold-blooded.
Cold-blooded. Bearded dragons need a basking spot of about 110 to 120 degrees because it's hot. It's very hot in Australia. And an ambient temperature of 90 to 95 degrees. The cool side will go down to about 80 degrees, and the nighttime temperature should never get any lower than like 72 to 75 degrees.
Why?
Because that's too cold for them. They're what blood?
Cold-blooded.
Cool blood. That is those beautiful Australian temperatures.
Yeah.
That is my kind of weather.
Yeah, but if it's like freezing,
Well, I'm sure it gets freezing in some parts, but Australia is warm. How you get those temperatures is entirely up to you guys. Natalie and I would make a couple recommendations to you though. So UVB lighting. Bearded dragons absolutely need UVB lighting, unlike the leopard gecko we did.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't mention this in prior videos, but when it comes to UVB lighting for a longer enclosure, the tube lighting is always better. Rather than like your heat lamp, some of them have two where you can put the heat bulb and a UVB light in the same thing. That's only giving them UVB in that one tiny spot. Tube lighting, especially for longer enclosures like your Savannah and Nile monitor, tube lighting stretches out more of the enclosure to give them more of that lighting. Also, unlike our leopard gecko, who remember we said wasn't really a basking species, that heat pads are probably better.
Yeah.
Bearded dragons are the total opposite.
Yeah.
They are a basking species, so we would definitely recommend a basking lamp. The reason being is leopard geckos aren't really out during the day basking and all of that. They're collecting residual heat. Bearded dragons, however, are a basking species. They prefer to be on top of like fence posts,
Got poopy.
tall thing, whatever gets them how they feel closer to the sun.
Got poopy.
So we would definitely recommend a basking lamp for bearded dragons.
Yeah.
You better not, Poopy. But where do we usually find this guy in his enclosure?
We usually find them on a branch.
Right below the basking spot, right?
Yeah.
So he can soak in some heat.
Yeah. Because he likes it.
Yes, he does. And to give you guys like a specific wattage just isn't going to cut it, because that's going to absolutely depend on where you have the heat lamp positioned, how big the enclosure is. So rather than giving you guys a specific wattage that you guys would need, most of those heat bulbs you get at a pet store,
Yeah.
they will tell you right on the back of them, for this sized enclosure, use this. For this amount of length between the heat lamp and their basking spot, use this. So we usually don't read the instructions to like anything, but those do have it. And our final point to enclosure heating and lighting is, as I'm sure you guys are well aware, it's been hammered in for a long time, is those red heat bulbs aren't very good for your pet reptile. There's a number of different reasons, but if you guys want to look it up, the main one is that if you're using that at night, it's not invisible to reptiles. It's pretty much keeping a never-ending day cycle going on for them.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're giving them any nighttime. So we definitely wouldn't recommend those. However, ceramic heat emitters, they make two cones. They make ones that do emit that red light, and they make ones that don't.
Yeah.
So if you are going to get one online, just make sure that it's the right one, because you don't want to get, I hate buying something and then it's not what I thought it was, right?
Yeah. But
Kind of
that.
like that.
It's
So
yeah.
finally, on to
Diet.
diet. Bearded dragons, especially babies, eat a lot. They eat a lot, and babies will eat every single day. This guy loves his food, does he not?
Yeah. He loves his food.
Bearded dragons are omnivores. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
What?
They eat greens and mealworms and crickets.
You are exactly right. Very good, Smarty Pants. But
I'm not
she's
Smarty
right.
Pants.
They will eat greens, and they will also eat insects.
Yeah, and crickets.
We'll get into the greens here in a second, but with a lizard that eats that much, and especially depending on how many lizards you guys have, we would definitely recommend you guys order them in bulk. This will save you a lot of money. There's a lot of websites out nowadays where you can order crickets by like the thousands.
Yeah.
Places like Dubia.com, Josh's Frogs. We'll put a couple links down in the bottom, but we'd highly recommend you order them in bulk. You will save a lot of money.
Yeah.
As far as reptile-safe greens, you can use things like cabbage, collard greens, and celery leaves, kale, and pea sprouts. Those are reptile-safe ones. Those are the ones you can feed him.
Yeah.
And then there are ones that
carrots?
you, not really carrots. And then there are ones that you cannot feed them, or you should not feed them. This would include things like spinach, broccoli, romaine lettuce, and avocados.
Yeah.
Any of these, and with too much, can absolutely be toxic to your animal.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want to feed them anything like that. Alright, so then the ratio of insects to greens. As babies, the ratio should be 80% insects, 20% greens. And then as adults, 40% insects, 60% greens. And you're going to want to do this over a pretty good stretch, a period of time. You're not just going to say, oh, he's an adult, let's totally switch it up. You want to like gradually do that as they get older. Not just up and switch his whole diet. Like if I just took peanut butter and jelly away from you,
Yeah.
you'd be upset.
Yeah.
Now, whatever you feed them, as Daddy just got on him a second ago, bearded dragons have a reputation for very smelly poop. And tell everybody how much of a stinky boy this guy can be.
He's stinky. Let me smell him.
Are you gonna smell him right now?
Smell him.
Not too bad, but they do. If you watch some other people talk about bearded dragons,
Yeah.
one of the main things you'll hear is like how stinky their poops are. So be prepared. Dad can take reptile bites all day. I don't do reptile poop.
Why?
It's grosser to me than getting bit.
Well, why do you want to get bit? That can make some pretty bad damage.
I prefer neither, but if I had the choice of either getting pooped on or bit, I'd take getting bit. Alright guys, so that does it for our bearded dragon care video. And just to remind everybody, we still don't have a name for him, so if you guys want to comment down below, we'd be more than happy to see what you guys pick out. And we'll give you credit if we go with that name. We will see you on Wednesday for our next video. We hope you guys like this. If you found it informative or enjoyable, make sure to leave us a like and consider subscribing, because Wednesday we're getting back into our prehistoric reptiles. Those ones are fun.
Yeah.
Alright guys, but we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye, buddy.
Woo!